Hello and welcome to India Business Hour. I'm Arundhati Ramanan and here are the headlines that we're tracking for you this evening. Sensex and Nifty hit a record high after 14 months, but markets give up most of the gains to end barely in the green. Bank stocks lead the rally. Government is all set to fast-track the incentive scheme to bolster rare earth manufacturing. Sources say notification is likely in 15 days and bids will be invited over the next 2 months. That's an exclusive. A NITI Aayog panel proposes scrapping licenses, permits and no objection certificates in a regulatory overhaul. Sources say a high-level committee is proposing prior approvals only for high-risk cases involving national security, public safety and environmental harm. That's another exclusive. Tech giant Apple takes India's competition regulator to court, challenges the law allowing penalties to up to 10% of global turnover for market dominance. The law exposes the company to a potential penalty of $38 billion. Apple's global smartphone shipments could outpace Samsung for the first time in 14 years. Counterpoint Research says the positive response to the iPhone 17 series is a major catalyst. TataPower likely to resume production at its Mundra plant 6 months after suspending operations due to poor demand. The Gujarat government reaches an in-principle understanding on a supplementary power purchase agreement. Sources say TataPower could use this as a precedent for pacts with other states. Ahmedabad gets ready for a massive infrastructure makeover ahead of the 2030 Commonwealth Games. Big opportunity for developers with land near Games venues, athlete village and key transport corridors. Airport link development could boost inbound travel and demand for hotels as well. At least 65 people are dead and hundreds missing after an apartment complex in Hong Kong goes up in flames. The blaze tears through 7 of the 8 tower blocks. 3 construction company executives arrested so far. 2 U.S. soldiers shot and critically wounded near the White House after an attack by a lone gunman rattles Washington. Officials identify the suspect as an Afghan national who is currently in custody. U.S. stops processing immigration requests from Afghanistan after the attack. Those were the headlines that we're tracking for you this evening, but let's start with the day's market action. Sensex and Nifty hit record highs, but largely ended flat. Sensex crossed the 86,000 mark and Nifty surpassed the 26,300 mark for the first time ever. Bank stocks led the rally. Hormaz Fatakia tracks the Nifty's 14-month journey to these record highs.
It finally happened, didn't it? And 14 months is what it took. 27th of September of 24 was last time when the Nifty was at these levels, and we finally managed to cross that. But the bigger talking point is that from the lows that we made in 2025, which was in April this year, the index is up 19%, yet we remain underperformers compared to the rest of the globe. You talk about contributors, the usual suspects of Bharat Electronics, Bajaj Finance, SBI, but Eicher Motors is the top gainer here, gains of anywhere between 25 to 45%. But the losers are the bigger here. Trent, street darling at one point of time, has almost halved. Bajaj Auto, Coal India, TCS, NTPC, all of them down anywhere between 25 to 30% in the last 14 months. But if you take a look at the gainers from the April lows, you see BEL is up almost 50%, but the post-GST rally seen in M&M is the talking point here. Eternal has done well, as has Jio Financial Services. But if the Nifty made record highs, the broader markets is where the pain lies. The mid-cap index has done precious little over the last 14 months. The small-cap index is down 7%. And more than the gainers, you look at the losers here. You look at the mid-cap losers, Colgate is down 42%, as is IndusInd Bank, no longer a part of the Nifty. Tata Tech, another hyped IPO, down 40%. RVLN and Ireda, the high-flying PSU stocks of 2023 and a better part of 24 as well, down 40% each. The picture in the small-cap space is even more grim. Ola Electric is down 60%, as is Tejas Networks. You look at Jindal Saw, add another 11% to Whirlpool's 46% drop. So overall, the Nifty may have made a record high, but it is the broader markets where the actual underperformance and the actual pain lies.
So the broad market underperforming. Many thanks for those details, Hormaz. The Indian rupee was largely steady against the dollar in trade today. The currency remains closer to record low and above the 89 mark against the greenback. Last night, the International Monetary Fund reclassified the rupee to what it calls a crawl-like arrangement after the currency moved more freely. Sources in the money market say a crawling peg is closer to a market-determined rate. The fund went on to say India is well positioned to allow greater flexibility in its currency, which would help absorb external shocks. The Finance Ministry has said that India's economy is on a stable footing on the back of encouraging inflation expectations, sustained public capex and strong rural and urban demand. The ministry's monthly economic report highlighted that the economy is positioned to navigate emerging risks and preserve its growth momentum through the remaining months of this fiscal year. The report further highlighted that global uncertainties, including shifting trade policies, geopolitical frictions and financial market volatility, are potential headwinds. The government will notify the 7,300 crore rupee rare earth permanent magnet manufacturing scheme in 15 days. Sources tell CNBC TV18 that the government could invite bids for the scheme by the 31st of January. Parikshit Luthra joins us now with all of those details. Parikshit, tell us more about the contours of this scheme.
Well, the government is likely to notify the scheme for manufacturing rare earth magnets in 15 days. Thereafter, the government could invite bids for the scheme by 31st of January next year. Interested bidders will have to submit a detailed project report to show that they are technically capable, they have either indigenous expertise or they have global technology tie-ups to deliver on the promises they are making. An interministerial group supported by India Rare Earth Limited, Baba Atomic Research Centre and CSIR will soon be set up to frame the bid criteria, and this interministerial group will choose and select the applications also. Startups, established companies, first-time players are all likely to be invited to bid for the scheme. All applicants would be free to have global tie-ups for technology but must manufacture in India. The government may consider companies who can invest rupees 1,500 crores in setting up a plant for 12,000 ton of rare earth permanent magnets. Smaller players who can set up capacity for 600 tons of permanent magnets may also be considered. During the consultation phase, 25 companies, including magnet makers, automotive component manufacturers, participated in the meetings. As of now, companies like Entellus, Ashwini Magnets and Midwest make rare earth materials in India, but no one does it at the scale that is really needed or where you can say there is import substitution. The government seeks to establish rare earth permanent magnet manufacturing facilities in India and build a domestic supply chain to reduce reliance on Chinese imports. In order to strengthen domestic supply chains, Department of Atomic Energy has also asked state-owned India Rare Earth Limited to expand capacity for manufacturing NdPr oxide, which is a crucial raw material for manufacturing rare earth magnets.
So this is a great policy. As you know, we are India's largest rare earth magnet consumer, importer. For us, secure supply chain is very important as we make more and more traction motors for the future as India electrifies. We will play a part in this policy in some form or the other, as a primary applicant or a secondary applicant jointly with somebody. But we are very interested, and I genuinely think this is one of the best policies to have come out.
Shares of Whirlpool of India declined after 11.8% equity changed hands via block deal. Sources tell CNBC TV18 that the company's promoter, Whirlpool Mauritius, is likely to have sold 7.5% equity worth around 980 crore rupees. The floor price of the deal was set at about 1,000 rupees per share. TataPower is likely to resume production at its Mundra plant 6 months after suspending operations due to poor demand. Sources tell CNBC TV18 that the Gujarat government has reached an in-principle understanding with the company on a supplementary power purchase agreement. Vivek Iyer has more.
Well, that's right. So, one of the most important plants, in fact, one of the largest plants in India, and especially for Tata Power, the Mundra UMPP, which is the ultra mega power plant, which is 800 into 5 megawatts, which is close to 4,000 megawatt, and this particular plant has actually been in operational since July 2025 when Section 11 was not extended. So now, it's been inactive since July, and not only that, there was absolutely no visibility as far as long-term PPA is concerned. But now what we are understanding from our sources is that the company as well as the Gujarat state government have reached an in-principle understanding to go ahead and sign a supplementary PPA to resume operations and to start procuring power from the Mundra facility. Not only that, remember the original PPA was signed with 5 states, and we understand that once the Gujarat supplementary PPA is signed, of all of the 4 other states will use that as a precedent and go ahead and start procuring power from TataPower at what will essentially be very similar terms and conditions. Now, we reached out to the management of TataPower. So far, they have not yet responded to our queries. But just to give a sense of how important this particular development is for TataPower, in FY25, the company reports a cluster, Mundra Coal and Shipping, and this particular cluster reported a PAT of 1,078 crore. It's reasonable to assume that majority of the contribution would have come in from Mundra itself, and it was just operating under Section 11, not a supplementary PPA. In Q2, on back of the fact that Mundra was inoperational, that particular cluster actually reported a loss of close to 362 crore. So, the importance of Mundra cannot be underestimated. It's an important development, and we will keep updating our viewers on the same.
Right, Vivek. Many thanks for those details. The Reserve Bank has granted a certification of authorization to Paytm Payment Services. The entity owned by Paytm's parent 197 Communications can now operate as a payment aggregator. The company had applied for the permit in March 2020. However, the approval was stuck due to certain compliance issues related to foreign investments in the company. The Enforcement Directorate has arrested online money gaming platform Winzo founders on money laundering charges. Soumya Singh Rathore and Pavan Nanda were arrested after being questioned at the zonal office of the Federal Probe Agency. They were initially sent to one-day custody after being produced before a local court. The arrest comes after the ED's recent searches at Winzo's premises. A panel constituted by NITI Aayog has proposed scrapping licenses, permits and no objection certificates. Sources have said that the panel has recommended third-party and risk-based inspections. Shivani Bazaz filed this report.
Well, yes, sources have told CNBC TV18 that a high-level NITI Aayog panel led by former Cabinet Secretary Rajiv Gauba has called for a complete end to what is described in the country as the inspection Raj. The committee has recommended scrapping most licenses, permits and NOCs except in high-risk areas like national security, public safety, health and the environment as well. Under the proposed framework, routine inspections will now move to accredited third parties selected through risk-based computer-generated systems. That's what sources are telling us. Now, the panel is also pushing a new trust-based approach, the Jan Vishwas Siddhant, where any activity not explicitly prohibited by law will not need prior approval. It has also called for stable policies and tax regimes and for every regulation to clearly state the compliance cost for businesses and enforcement burden on the government. And in a major shift, the committee also has proposed that criminal penalties reserved only for serious offences, including threats to national security, fraud or major environmental harm, with a full review of all such provisions across laws. If these proposals are accepted, of course, these are right now just on the proposal stage, they could mark a significant reset in how businesses operate in India and how India regulates its businesses. Back to you.
There are companies which are just wanting to shift operations from one country to the other. What does this mean from us? They're interested in India for 2 reasons. Domestic market, and we are one of the best low-cost destinations for manufacture. Having said that, we need to cut our paperwork. We need to cut our bureaucracy. The Prime Minister keeps talking about, minimum government, maximum governance, ease of doing business. Get out of the way of business. Make life easy. We don't want people to fly in with interest and fly back disappointed.
The Income Tax Department launches a new initiative asking taxpayers to disclose foreign assets acquired in FY25 by the end of December. Tax Department identifies high-risk cases where foreign assets appear to exist but have not been reported so far. Apple has moved the Delhi High Court challenging India's amended antitrust penalty regime. The iPhone maker told the court that the law may subject it to as much as $38 billion in fines. This as the new regime allows the Competition Commission of India to impose penalties of up to 10% based on a company's global turnover rather than its revenue from India. Tech giant Apple is set to ship more iPhones this year, more than its rival Samsung, for the first time in 14 years. Counterpoint Research tells CNBC that the iPhone maker will ship around 243 million units this year. In comparison, Samsung's estimate of 235 million units. Apple is also likely to end up with a 19.4% share of the global smartphone market, while Samsung's share will be 18.7%. Cartrade has announced that its proposed deal to acquire Cardeco will be not moving forward. In a statement, the company said that two companies had mutually decided not to proceed with the proposed transaction at this stage. The transaction was estimated at over $1.2 billion. Remember, CNBC TV 18 had confirmed that Cartrade was in talks to acquire Cardeco and BikeDeco. A joint venture between Reliance Industries, Brookfield and Digital Realty will invest $11 billion to build a 1 gigawatt AI data center in Andhra Pradesh by 2030. This move has come a month after Google inked a deal with the state government to build an AI data center with an investment of $15 billion. Telecom giants have expressed concerns about the recently notified data protection rules. The companies have asked for clarity on security compliance, consent of minors, and audit obligations. Telcos have asked for an exemption for 16 to 18-year-olds looking to buy a SIM. They also said that alignment with sectoral laws remain unaddressed. Commonwealth Games is returning to India after 2 decades. Ahmedabad will host the 24th edition of the Games in 2030. The formal announcement was made at an event in Scotland's Glasgow. A delegation from India, including Indian Olympic Association President P.T. Usha and Gujarat Deputy CM Harshangvi, were present. Moments after the announcement, Garba dancers and drummers entered the hall and surprised delegates with a cultural performance. Meanwhile, Ahmedabad is gearing up for a massive infrastructure makeover. There's big opportunity for developers with land near Games venues, athlete village and key transport corridors. Airport-linked development could boost inbound travel and demand for hotels as well. Sonal Bhutra gives us a lowdown on what we can expect.
Well, yes, the announcement that Ahmedabad will host the 2030 Commonwealth Games could open up one of the biggest real estate and infrastructure opportunity cycles the city has ever seen. Large sporting events don't just bring athletes and spectators, right? They trigger a wave of construction, urban development, hotel expansion, and long-term demand for residential, retail, and commercial real estate as well. So let's break down where the biggest opportunities lie and which kinds of companies stand to benefit the most. But first up, let's just look at the costs that have been incurred in previous Commonwealth Games. The numbers are for you on the screen. Manchester, Melbourne, Glasgow, Gold Coast, Birmingham. Somewhere between 10,000 to 15,000 crore rupees is the opportunity which is available. Now, sectoral impact. First, real estate developers. The biggest near-term opportunity sits with developers holding land around key games avenues, the athlete village and transport corridors connecting them to the airport and the city centre. Hosting the games means new world-class sports facilities, upgraded highways, metro links, and also an expanded airport. All of this sharply improves connectivity and land value and adjoining micro markets. Developers with large integrated townships, mixed-use developments, or upcoming residential projects in and around Ahmedabad and Gandhinagar could see accelerated demand as investors and home buyers they look to participate in the growth story. Some of the big real estate players in Ahmedabad include Adani Realty, Arvind Smart Spaces, Godrej Properties, to name a few. There could be some opportunity in the airport link development as well because of improved international connectivity, plus terminal expansions increase inbound travel, hotel demand, premium office or retail near airport as well. Of course, Adani airports will be in focus because of that. Construction and engineering contractors, they'll also be in focus due to venue construction, road, metro, airport works, and hospitality projects. So the likes of L&T, HCC, GMR, and any other regional large contractors and players will be in focus. These firms historically won major game contracts in Delhi and elsewhere as well. Hospitality industry, of course, will be in focus. There'll be surge in visitor nights for the games and longer-term business travel. It will lift revenue per room for these companies, per available room, that is. There is a new ITC hotel there as well. So stocks like ITC hotels, Indian hotels, etc. will be in focus on the back of this. But of course, the key to track now will be formal project announcements and tender awards from Gujarat or state government and the organizing committee as well. But this definitely could be a big boost to a lot of industries.
Right, Sonal, many thanks for those details. On that note, it is time for us to head into a short break. But coming up on India Business Hour, at least 65 people are dead and hundreds missing after an apartment complex in Hong Kong goes up in flames. More details in just a bit. And you can also catch all CNBC TV 18's news and updates on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, X and Geo Hotstar. Do subscribe to CNBC TV 18 Access for exclusive stories. back. You're watching India Business Hour. Ukraine claims Russia has carried out 41 airstrikes, dropping more than 100 guided bombs across the country. Kiev also said it hit a Russian plant involved in missile and drone production, along with several other military positions. Russia's President Vladimir Putin says he is ready for a serious discussion on the peace plan brokered by the US President Trump's special advisor, Steve Witkoff, who is set to travel to Moscow to hold talks next week. 2 U.S. soldiers were shot and critically wounded near the White House after an attack by a lone gunman rattled Washington. Officials have identified the suspect as an Afghan national who is currently in custody. The Trump administration has stopped processing immigration requests from Afghanistan after this attack. U.S. President Donald Trump has asked Japanese Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi to dial down her stance on Taiwan. As per reports, both the leaders spoke over a phone call where Trump told the Japanese leader to not escalate tensions with Beijing. This comes after Prime Minister Takaichi sparked a diplomatic row by suggesting that a Chinese attack on Taiwan threatening Japan could justify a military response. The big international story: at least 65 people have died and hundreds are missing in Hong Kong after an entire apartment complex caught on fire last night. Officials alleged that bamboo scaffolding and foam materials used during maintenance work might have caused the rapid spread of the fire. The fire tore through 7 of 8 tower blocks of the buildings. Firefighters were continuously dousing the fire and attempting to rescue trapped residents inside the burning building. This incident has been touted as the deadliest fire in Hong Kong in decades. Authorities have said that the firefighters managed to put out the fire in 4 buildings and operations were continuing in the remaining 3. A task force has been set up to investigate the cause of the blaze. 3 men from the construction company, including 2 directors and 1 engineering consultant, have been arrested. Here's a report.
Firefighters continue to douse fires that engulfed the Wang Fuk Court apartment complex in Hong Kong on Thursday, over 24 hours since the blaze began. Nearly 300 people are still unaccounted for.
Actually, our major challenge is the temperature is very high in the fire ground, and the inside layout is very complex because the scaffolding is collapsed.
Authorities earlier said that in addition to the buildings being covered with protective mesh sheets and plastic that did not meet fire standards, they discovered in one unaffected building that windows were sealed with foam material installed by a construction company carrying out maintenance work. Eileen Chung is a senior superintendent with the Hong Kong Police.
We do not rule out the possibility that these foam materials contributed to the rapid spread of the fire.
The police have arrested 3 men from the construction firm on suspicion of manslaughter. Meantime, residents of the apartment complex are mourning the loss of their homes.
We bought this apartment more than 20 years ago. All of our belongings were in this apartment. And now that it is all burned like this, what's left? There's nothing left. What are we supposed to do? What we hope most is that the government will help us solve this problem. We don't have any other requests, just a hope that the government can help us resolve it.
Hong Kong is among the most densely populated places in the world and also among the world's most expensive housing markets. Wang Fuk Court is one of many high-rise housing complexes under the government-subsidized home ownership scheme. It has 2,000 apartments in 8 blocks that are home to more than 4,600 people in a city struggling with a chronic shortage of affordable housing.
The Congress top brass has taken note of the rift between Karnataka Chief Minister Siddaramaiah and his deputy DK Shivkumar. Party President Mallikarjun Kharge has said he will convene a meeting with the 2 leaders and others, including Rahul Gandhi. The Congress government had crossed the halfway mark of its 5-year term in the state last week. The development came against the backdrop of an alleged power-sharing agreement between Siddaramaiah and Shivkumar. Earlier today, DK Shivakumar put out a cryptic post on X. The post read, "Word power is world power." Former AIA-DMK leader and 9-time MLA Sen Gotian joined actor Vijay's TVK party. This comes a day after he resigned as MLA. He was expelled from the AIA-DMK last month. He has been appointed the chief coordinator of TVK's high-level administrative committee. He is the first well-known leader to join the actor-turned-politician's new political party. The BJP government in Assam has passed a bill to ban polygamy in the state. The anti-polygamy bill mandates a maximum prison sentence of 10 years, barring some exceptions. People belonging to scheduled tribe category and areas under the 6th schedule have been kept out of the purview of this legislation. During the passage of the bill, Chief Minister Himanta Biswa Sarma claimed the law is not against Islam as it is being perceived by a section of the society. Mahindra has launched the XEV 9S, touted to be India's first 7-seater electric SUV at an introductory price of 19.95 lakh rupees. Bookings open on 14 January next year and customer deliveries begin on the 23rd of January. Tuhin Guha from Overdrive gives us a sneak peek.
Now what you see here is the Mahindra XEV 9S. It's the 7-seater, 3-row derivative of all the Mahindra EVs that you've seen so far. Now we've been waiting for it for a long time. Let's see what it actually gives you. Now from the front, you notice that it's very familiar. It has that same big, wide LED signature, those big, tall lamps. Now from the side, you'll notice that this is where the most difference is. It's a much more traditional, upright, familiar shape that you see here. Now the wheelbase is again very similar to the other Inglo cars, 2762 mm, but the car itself is now 4.7 meters long, slightly over that, and 1.9 meters wide and just over 1.7 meters tall. So it has a big boxy shape to it. Now a lot of the other features you will know from earlier. For example, it continues with that same 79 kilowatt battery pack, which puts out 285 PS and 380 Newton meters from that single motor at the back. And range is also very good, over 600 kilometers in that ARAI range figure. Now this is where things are quite different. You have this 3-row setup, which means that with the 3 rows up, this is the kind of space you have. We don't have that exact figure. But when you fold down this 3rd row, you have 500 liters. And there's also a spare wheel which you access from here, and it's placed down here. As you can see from the inside, it's again quite familiar. You have that big, wide 3-screen setup that is at the center of this cabin. And as you can see, I have that same effect that you have in the 9E with all the new bits that came with the Inglo architectures. But things really change when you get into the 2nd and the 3rd row. Now the 9E had ventilated front seats, but now for the first time in this segment, you have ventilated 2nd row of seats. This is what the 3rd row of the 9S is like. This is how I get in. It's the passageway somewhat like this. And you can use this tab to pull yourself into the space. Now to give you an idea of the kind of space that's in this row, this seat section has been pushed right to the front. This has been pushed right behind. And this is the kind of space I have. This is the kind of headroom I have. Now the Mahindra XEV 9S is priced between rupees 19.95 lakh to rupees 29.45 lakh. That's a wide range. But what do you think of it? There aren't too many 7-seat electric SUVs on the market. And would you consider an EV now that such an option is available?
With that, it is a wrap on this edition of India Business Hour. Many thanks for watching. The news continues right here on CNBC TV 18.